Indian cinema is going through an exciting and also a confusing time. On one hand, the Indian film in Telugu language RRR was named one of the best films by dozens of American publications. It won several awards, including the Golden Globe and Critics' Choice Award. Its song Natu Natu is nominated for the Oscars. While on the other hand, the year of 2022 was said to be one of the worst for Hindi cinema, popularly known as Bollywood. Films riding on big stars and bigger budgets were failing to bring audiences to the theaters. In the politically charged climate, comments made by actors prompted boycott trends on social media, along with accusations of nepotism in the industry. However, this grim mood in Bollywood changed a couple of weeks ago when superstar Shah Rukh Khan returned after a break of 4 years with Pathan, a spy action film which broke several box office records and got people back to the theatres. There is no better person to talk about Indian cinema than Anupama Chopra, a film critic, national award winning book author, and journalist. Currently, the founder and editor in chief of Film Companion, a digital platform which offers a curated look at cinema and entertainment. This is Surbhi Gupta. Thank you for joining us at the lead, Anupama.
Toby, thank you for having me. I'm always very happy to talk about Indian cinema. It's my favorite thing in the world.
So, first of all, I wanted to ask you, I was reading your book, The King of Bollywood, Shah Rukh Khan. You talk about how filmmakers really wanted that crossover global cultural exchange, and that has kind of happened with RRR. It crossed over, it was so popular. So, how did you see the success of the film? What was your assessment like?
For me, the success of RRR, obviously, like it was for everybody, I think, it was unexpected. I had not imagined a time when I would see Richard Brody waxing eloquent about a mainstream, massive Indian film in the New Yorker. Or this kind of dancing when Natu Natu plays or when the film ends. Honestly, I've never seen anything like it for any other Indian film. But I think that finally it's just the sheer joy that the film delivers. And it's that cinematic high that perhaps we've been missing from our lives for too long, and especially through the pandemic. And it is a big screen theatrical experience. This is not a film. I know it's on Netflix, and for a lot of people in the US, that was their first introduction. But the true essence of RRR is when you're in a massive theater, and you're just screaming when those animals come out, and you're just losing the plot when all of those crazy antics are happening, and it's just the sort of, it's so outlandish and so joyful and so cinematic that it's irresistible.
This was a Telugu language film, and in the global imagination, India is associated with Bollywood, the Hindi language cinema. So, what do you think that it means for Indian cinema at large?
I think one of the best things to have happened in the last 5, 6 years is that we are no longer fixating on what region of India a film comes from. We are all watching everything. We're watching everything on streaming. We're going to theaters and watching films that are not necessarily Hindi first. And that's a wonderful thing. I think that this sort of cross pollination of audiences, of artists, can only help each industry in India get better. And there was, I think Bollywood just had sort of the most eyeballs, not necessarily in terms of actual eyeballs, but just in terms of media coverage, etc., for way too long. And for a lot of the West, Indian cinema and Bollywood were synonymous, and that's not true. We have vibrant, thriving, flourishing film industries in many other states. And I think that's RRR and Bahubali has really sort of made that clear to the world, that Indian cinema is not just Hindi cinema, it's much more than that.
Right. And also, the pandemic has had a huge role to play. So, if you could tell us more about the movie going culture in India and how has that changed over the last few years?
Well, it is a movie crazy country. It's very very cinema is the sort of number one choice of entertainment. It is And it's been that, it's a completely movie obsessed nation, and every other state has its own thriving regional cinema, local cinema that's with its own local stars and its own film directors. So it's always been that. But pre-pandemic, I think we were more in our own silos, because it was harder. It was, let's say, for me, I mean, I'm a film critic, I watch films for a living, but it was harder for me to find the new Telugu film playing at a multiplex near me at a convenient time. But what streaming did was give me access. And I think that was a game changer, because we all discovered the brilliance of Malayalam cinema and how Telugu cinema does the sort of over the top commercial film in such a brilliant way, or all the kind of really exciting stuff happening in Tamil cinema or Kannada cinema, which until a few years ago was considered not as strong as the other three, and is now just churning it out, just churning the blockbusters out. So I think uh, audience tastes, of course, changed, and some of it is concerning. The traditional wisdom right now is that audiences will only come to theaters for big spectacle movies. The sort of more personal, smaller budget ones will necessarily go to streaming. We don't know that. I'm not sure that that is the gospel truth. But you do need to get audiences back into theaters, and the success of RRR, KGF 2 last year, Kantara, Avatar, which was among the top 5 films in India last year, and now Pathan, tells you that people are absolutely ready for the theaters again, and they just want that experience. They want the ride that movies need to provide.
So surely, Pathan, which is Shah Rukh Khan's comeback after 4 years, has changed the mood in Hindi cinema. But last year a lot was written about the panic and confusion in Mumbai, that bigger stars and even bigger budget films were not able to bring audiences into the theaters. But could you tell us, like, what is happening in Hindi cinema? Like, why are films not working? Why are audiences not happy? What is really happening?
I mean, to begin with, there was many, many months of just no theatrical releases, and that obviously led also to a breaking of habit. Theater going is a sort of a habit, and people simply got out of it. My parents now don't want to go to theaters. They're of course much older, and they're just more comfortable watching things at home. And I think that became a kind of a default mode for too many people. Also, again, it's, look, with the movies, there is this great saying by William Goldman that nobody knows anything. So I'm just telling you what the various hypotheses are. No one actually ever knows what's going on with an audience, or when any of it will flip around and change completely. But the traditional thinking right now is that what happened was that Hindi cinema became, over the last especially 15 years, more westernized, more leaning towards catering to a audience in the major metros, in multiplexes, which is of course the paying audience. The multiplex tickets are much more expensive than single screens, uh, and therefore lost touch with the heartland, lost touch with the kind of the roots, basically lost touch with making a pan India, larger than life cinema, which appeals to more people than the more kind of urbane cinema, which is what most Hindi film directors were making. And therefore, when the South came out with films like, Pushpa, which is Telugu, or RRR, which is Telugu again, you saw the larger than life heroes, you had the song and dance, you had the kind of mass movie, the masala that Hindi cinema wasn't able to provide, which is why they lost their audience. Which is presumably what Pathan has done, is given the ride, given the adrenaline, given the masala and the hero entry back, and got them back into theaters.
But do you think its success is sustainable or things need to change in Bollywood?
Look, you cannot design success. I don't believe it's possible for any filmmaker to sit and say, okay, now only larger than life will work, or only a certain kind of Before pandemic, it was the mid-budget film. It was Andhadhun and Badai Do, and those kind of films which were all the rage. And now everybody thinks, well, those films are now necessarily straight to streaming. But I think this is all very myopic. Nobody can predict what audiences will like. I mean, Drishyam 2 has done massive business, and that's a story of a family. That's not in any way a big spectacle film. That doesn't have, you know, those kind of songs and dances either. But it's the storytelling, it's the narrative, it's the mystery, and it's the murdering and the killing, and how this man gets away with it. So I think what has to happen with Hindi cinema, and what perhaps they lost sight of, was simply how important the writing is and how much needs to be invested at that stage. That it's not about the stars, it's never about the stars. The foundation has to be correct. Your writing and your script has to be in the right place, and then you build on it. Stars are brilliant and wonderful, and we all go to theaters to see stars. But a star without a script is not going to be saleable anymore.
Right. So I think what is also interesting and unique about Indian cinema is its star system. So if you could tell us, like, who is the Indian movie star if you had to describe it to someone who doesn't know about India?
Well, the Indian movie star is somewhere between human beings and God. They are demigods. That's who they are, and they've been that for years. I mean, Rajesh Khanna in the late 60s, early 70s is was seen as the sort of first superstar. But to my mind, Raj Kapoor, Devanand, Dilip Kumar were superstars. So this was something that came into being very early on, in the, just post independence in the 50s. And the sort of relationship between the Indian audience and their stars is very reverential. It's very um, it's they're on a pedestal in a way that they are not in any other film culture in the world. I think that what we have here in India is a very unique relationship and a very unique sort of perception. See, you have to understand that films in India are not just entertainment, right? It's a way of life. It's cinema sets your fashion trends. The movies teach us how to talk. The songs that play in nightclubs, at birthday parties, at evening dinners, all come from the movies. So cinema is a massive cultural force. It's almost a religion. So obviously, then the relationship with our stars is very unique and very different.
Right. But that is also changing. There was this scene which was doing the rounds on social media of Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan, two of the biggest stars in India, talking about like how like there's nobody to really follow and be in their shoes. So is the star system in India changing?
I don't know. Will we see the sort of supersized stardom of Salman, Shah Rukh, Amir? I don't know if that's possible anymore in the time of social media, when the current and the younger stars are so accessible and so available. It's a tough one, but will Indians stop obsessing with stars? No, that's never going to happen. Are we going to not be dazzled when any of the younger stars walk into the room? Of course we will. Of course we will.
Another thing when we talk about stars these days is the boycott culture. You know, films are being boycotted, stars are being specifically, their films are being targeted on social media. Initially, one dismissed it, saying that it's another like a case of social media trolling, but then now it's seen that it does impact the business of a film.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, Surbhi. If anything, Pathan has proved that it doesn't impact. That film opened to 57 crores in India. That is massive.
But how do you see the boycott culture?
I think it's unfortunate. I think it's just unfortunate. It's unnecessary negativity. But it is what it is. If you can't control it, why think about it or worry about it? You just make the best film you can.
Right. And also another kind of accusation on Indian cinema and Hindi cinema is the whole thing of nepotism, which is a conversation that kind of started in the US also with Nepo babies. So what do you think are the nuances that we miss when we talk about nepotism in Indian cinema?
Look, nepotism is a fact of life in every ecosystem in this country. You want to talk about politics, you want to talk about business. Sports is perhaps the one area where you don't have nepo babies, because finally the talent has to be proven on the field, and if you can't do it, you just can't do it, right? But why are we singling out the movies? Just look at political leaders, look at business leaders. How many world sort of how many massive business families do you have where the family is not taking care of it and they're hiring somebody from outside? You don't, right? So the truth is that nepotism is something, it's a larger malaise and a larger conversation. In India, in especially in Hindi cinema has been very much uh, a sort of it's been boutique production houses. Until 20 odd years ago, there were very few studios. I mean, you had great producers, like you would have a Yash Chopra, you would have a Subhash Ghai. You had producers who ran these boutique production houses, but you did not have studios. With So you had people creating private sort of systems for the making of movies, for the distribution of movies, for the release of movies. Now, if those people want to hire so and so's son or daughter, there is nobody that who can kind of uh, object to it. It's not public money, it's private funding, right? uh, is it a good thing? Of course not. There are many, many talented people who would not get access, because people would rather hire the next son or daughter. So is it good for the health of cinema? Not at all. But it is how cinema evolved. There were major film families like the Kapoor family, where you have fourth generation Kapoors acting. Yesterday a film called Faraz released, which has Zahan Kapoor, who is the son of Kunal Kapoor, who is the son of Shashi Kapoor, who is the son of Prithviraj Kapoor, right? So, uh, look, my take on this is that what nepotism will do is it will open a door. Is nepotism going to take you further than that? No, it isn't. There is no power, no star powerful enough to ensure that their son or daughter is also a star. Finally, what they will do is they will make a movie for them. They will perhaps make many movies for them, but can they ensure a career? No, they can't. You've got to have the talent, or you've got to have the charisma. And increasingly, I think even charisma is far less important than the talent. I think today, in fact, Karan Johar had said this to me, that you can no longer just be a star; you have to be a star actor.
Right, right, right. So, you had written Shah Rukh Khan's biography like 20 years ago. If you had to like add chapters to it, what would you talk about and say about Shah Rukh Khan, about Indian cinema?
For me, the biggest thing has been the emergence of the pan India film. I think that's been a very, very sort of critical development in in where Indian cinema is going, in the way that uh, talent is perceived, in the way talent moves from one cinema to the other. The fact that Fahad Fasil is now a pan Indian star without ever doing a Hindi film is amazing, and so welcome. So I think that's something that I would really focus on. I would really focus on a film like RRR going global, and by going global, it's not just playing in the US; it's running to packed houses in Japan. So I think that's a massive, massive kind of trajectory that should be recorded and should be talked about. And Shah Rukh has, of course, it's been the peaks and the valleys for him since we did our book, which I want to say was 2007 or 2008. So the last 15 years have been very, very. I mean, of course, his stardom exploded. There was major, major films, and then there was at least 4 or 5 years of you know just successive uh, films that underperformed, and then 4 years where he didn't do when he had no releases. So it's been, and then of course the kind of happy ending with Pathan. So it's a movie waiting to be made.
Right. But would you not talk about the rise of nationalistic films in Hindi cinema? Like, what would you say about that?
Well, that's part of the larger zeitgeist. That's part of what is happened in the country. I mean, films are not removed from society. They come from what the current mood is, and that is the current mood, and that is what films will reflect.
Right. And also, I wanted to talk about the space you've created for film journalism and criticism in India with Film Companion. I would say as a journalist who worked in India and as a cultural reporter that cultural criticism is on a decline. There is not much space, but you've created one with Film Companion.
I think it's very important to have a platform with engaging, credible entertainment journalism. And the sad truth about a lot of entertainment journalism in India is that a lot of it is now advertorial. It's marketing, it's not journalism. And for me, it was very important to create a space where you would read a review and you wouldn't necessarily have to agree with the review, but you know that the review is not part of a advertorial plan that the marketing team has made with the publisher. So to have reviews with integrity, with credibility, to have conversations about cinema, that is, and Film Companion was actually, and I'm very proud of this, was launched pre Bahubali, and was a pan India platform before Bahubali. So it was, we always wanted to talk about Indian cinema and not Hindi cinema. And that's been the journey. That it's not been easy. It's very, very hard. I'll never forget this. I had a meeting with a potential investor, and I sort of gave him the whole spiel of creating journalism which is well written, thought out, which has integrity. And he looked at me after a while and he said, "But integrity is not monetizable." And I didn't know what to say. I think I was speechless and I left. And but it's not true. It's not true. I think if you stick to it and you just keep going, I'm probably not going to come out of this as Jeff Bezos, but it's fine. It will pay for itself. It does pay for itself. I think we've created an audience around the world, which is so wonderful. I think we've encouraged people to think about movies in a different way, and it's been such a learning experience for me. I mean, I don't know how many film critic entrepreneurs there are out there in the world, so it's been fun.
It's been fun for us listeners and viewers too. I wanted to end with like a rapid fire of sorts.
Sure.
Which was your favorite film of 2022?
I would have to say RRR.
Really?
Yes, I
Nice.
loved it. I saw it with an audience in Japan. I saw it again at another couple of instances, and it's amazing how it the high is consistent. Just because the animals are going to jump out, it doesn't lessen the euphoria of the jumping. So I think it has to be RRR.
One actor we need to watch out for.
Someone who's new, is that the idea? Like somebody who's
Anybody, anybody.
for me the big in January I saw a Netflix series called Trial by Fire, and there's an actor named Rajshri Deshpande who isn't new. She's been doing work in series and films for 10 years, but I just think that she did not get uh, what her talent deserved, and this series really gave it to her, and she's just stunning. And I hope more people give her work and more people discover her work.
I had, in fact, actually written a profile on her in 2018.
She's fantastic. Yeah, and she's been doing great work for so many years, but I don't think there was enough applause for it.
One filmmaker we need to watch out for.
So somebody you don't know already, someone who's new and interesting.
Maybe, or somebody who's undiscovered. Like you know about it, but people may not know. Or even like somebody who's well known and you're really looking for. Like we should watch out for their film this year.
Well, there's going to be so many very, very exciting major movies. I mean, I'm very interested to see what Prashant Neel creates next. I'm very excited about Karan Johar's Rocky or Rani, but those are all the massive mainstream movies that people would be excited about anyway. I think what would be lovely is, I mean, I'm really looking forward to Lijo Perisheri's next film. He's a fantastic Malayalam filmmaker who had a release in January, and I'm probably going to maul this completely, but it's Nan Pagal Niratha Mayakam, which is Tamil for an afternoon slumber, and a very baffling, very mysterious, but wonderful film. So I'm always excited about what Lijo does. He's a very, very exciting filmmaker. I'm excited about so many of, the what's exciting for me is that I'm also now able to see like Tamil cinema or I mean, for me, Malayalam cinema has been the real eye opener. Those are the guys making just fantastic movies. One of the films I caught too late last year was Jaya 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 Hey, which is just the most incredible film about a toxic, abusive marriage. So I would recommend everybody watch that.
Who is like your all-time favorite actor and a film?
My all-time favorite film is of course Sholay, but actors, I don't become sort of a fan of actors. For me it's the movies, so each individual film speaks to me.
Yeah, and your last book was also a mix of, I forget its name.
It's called A Place in My Heart, and it's
Heart,
about,
A Place in My Heart.
yeah, it's about 51 people, movies, different things in movies which have a place in my heart.
Right, and it was like amazing because it's like the theater itself is has a place in your heart.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. It does. It really does.
Actually, I was like, whatever I've seen, I'll only read about that because I don't want any spoilers.
Right. Of course. Of course.
But it was like a joy reading that book. With such a mix of it. Like you don't expect when you read like listicles to be such a mix of everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that's about it. I won't take more of your time.
Super. Thanks so much, Surbhi. It was lovely chatting with you.
This has been The Lead by New Lines Magazine. You can find Anupama Chopra on Twitter at Anupama Chopra and read her reviews, interviews, and recommendations on her website, filmcompanion.in. This week's episode was produced by Joshua Martin and hosted by me, Surbhi Gupta. For more like this, subscribe to The Lead and visit our website, newlinesmag.com.